Hey guys, Dev here at WeBuyHouses.com. Welcome to Cash Offer Masterclass, episode number 25. Today we're in Mesquite, Texas, looking at this quaint little 3-bedroom, 1.5-bath home at 4507 Scottsdale Drive in Mesquite. So let's see, how did we find this house? We found this house through an email from a wholesaler, Fazio Real Estate Solutions. Now, I don't have any relationship with Fazio. I just use their content for these videos. And so I do want to shout them out. If you have any interest in this property, or really they've got a lot of properties in Texas, reach out to Jade Vaughn here. She's at 214-646-9646. She can hook you up whether you want to be in North Texas, South Texas, or wherever you want to be in the great state. They've got properties all over the place. I thought this was interesting. I had gotten this one. In fact, if you look at the email 7 hours ago, and it did say that it was reduced at that time. But then I noticed if I go forward to 4 hours ago, I got an email. And this property was $20,000 cheaper. So I feel like, by procrastinating, I may have saved money here. So anyway, this property has definitely gone down in their asking price. That makes it kind of even more interesting to look at. So this is the subject property. As usual, I haven't looked at the pictures. I've done the research on the ARV so we can kind of save some time on that calculation. But we're going to do the calculation of the repair expenses and the cash offer together today. So let's jump into that. They say $247,550 is the after repaired value. That's what we as investors use as our starting point. What could this house be worth if it was in excellent condition? And they're offering it to us for $135,000, so considerably discounted from what it could be worth if it was in great shape. Now, when we come down here and look at the big five, roof, HVAC, plumbing, electrical, and foundation, they say roof brand new, like it just happened, like yesterday. Sometimes not. People use that word a little, they're not brand new, could mean different things to different people, but probably pretty good shape. HVAC, 3 years old. Plumbing, electrical, foundation, no issues. So these things are sounding pretty good for a house that looks like it's at a pretty good discount if the ARV is correct. So let's jump into it. What could this house be worth? Oh, before I do, I think it's kind of fun to say, where is it? This is where it is. It's in the northeastern section of Dallas County up there. I believe that's Dallas County, Mesquite, pretty sure. But you can see it's in the Dallas Metroplex up in that area right there. And so that is our subject property for today. So to do the ARV, what we do in our model in this section right here is we go grab the number from Zillow, Redfin, Realtor, HAR. There's other ones that we can grab. I also use a paid service called Property Radar. Excuse me. I really like Property Radar's valuation tool, particularly for Texas. It does very well here, so I trust it. And in fact, it's right dead on. Look at that with what Realtor says. Oh, we didn't look at that yet, but let's jump over. This is what I saw when I went and did some snooping around. That on Zillow is at $196,600, and they showed a price history where it got up to about 230, and then it came down to 200. So they say it's come down 15% or so. I think that's the math on that. Realtor, $247,700, and they're showing CoreLogic at 237. Collateral Analytics 226, Quantarium at 227. So those services all seem to kind of like the 247 number. And then looked at Redfin. Redfin had it at 189,658. And they show it's a little bit leaning towards a buyer's market in that area. And then Property Radar showed me 247, 745. We saw that a minute ago. What did we get from that? We get an average of 220. Now, I got to say, 247 may be the ARV on this. Like, I might say, given that Property Radar, which is kind of the one I trust the most, probably out of these, is at 247, and Zillow's been kind of trending down and often is like conservatively, reduced so that it's not quite as high as the others. I think Zillow's anticipating the drop in the housing market in a lot of these areas and has kind of started to reduce those estimates on a lot of properties. So Zillow, I'm seeing, is often kind of on the lower end, and then Redfin, it's got its own metrics, I believe. We are at 220 on the average. Let's just use that. If we use 220 on the average on this 1,018 square foot home, we've got to be at 217 a square foot to get to that 220, and 217 is a pretty, it's a pretty good price to be paying per square foot for a 1958,000 square foot, 1.5. 1958 is one of the older homes around here. We don't have a lot of super old houses. Although, if y'all noticed last episode or one before, it was like a 1900 house. You don't see those very often really in Texas. See, quite frankly, a lot of 50s and 60s and 70s and stuff like that. So is 217 a square foot a good deal or the right deal? I don't know, probably so. 220 is ARV that I am comfortable with. If this house needed absolutely no repairs at the 70% discount value off the 220, we would be at 154, 634. So you can see why they probably had a little bit of a problem with this offer at 155. There probably wasn't any room there to do anything to the house, and they have since reduced it to 135. So it just goes to show you sometimes the wholesaler does have enough spread that if the house isn't selling at what they hoped, just like a regular home owner or home seller, they can start to reduce the price to try to find the market, try to find the place where people are, as far as what they're willing to pay for it. So that's where we're at. We're at 220 on the ARV, going into looking at the pictures. And as usual, I haven't looked at the pictures without you. I wouldn't do that because, I feel like we're developing a special bond, me and you. We're starting to, it's a bond based on trust. And you have to trust me, I haven't looked at the pictures, so and I haven't. So let's go look at them, see what we see. Sometimes that gets me in trouble, I click over and I look at the pictures and it's like, oh, their pictures are like tiny little postage stamps they got off a website, in like 1996 or something. But no, not the case. We've got some pictures here. Look at that. We're off to a great start. I don't know exactly what I'm looking at in picture number one. I think we're in the kitchen. I think this is I don't know what. I don't know what I'm looking at. That's a microwave. I know I'm looking at a microwave down there. This looks like maybe some sort of cabinet. And this looks like a missing chunk of a wall. Oh, you guys know I love to eat that popcorn. Oh, that buttery popcorn on that ceiling. It's so delicious. All right, we're outside. Got a carrier unit. Honestly, it doesn't look super new, but it also doesn't look particularly old. Obviously been replaced since 1958, so got that going for us. Sometime between 1958 and now, they put this in. It looks all right. And remember, in our communication from the wholesaler, they said just 3 years old. So I'm going to go with that, even though it's got a little pink spray paint on it. I'm going to say 3 years old. Sounds good to me. All right, as we look out here at this photo, there's just some messiness going on over here, you guys. Not sure what all that is. There's that line that goes up and into the house from the AC unit. And yeah, just hard to tell. The windows look pretty messy. Just gonna go ahead and say the windows look pretty messy. You definitely don't want 1958 windows, and those probably aren't. But I don't know if they look great. I think we have an above the ground swimming pool for you swimming enthusiasts. You can prop that thing back up, put a little water in there. You'll be living the good life. All right, we are outside. Usually when I'm looking around outside here, I'm looking for things like cracks in the brick facade. I don't see that. I'm looking for any grossness around the edge of the roof or the underside of the eaves or the soffits or the various parts and places under there. Doesn't look bad in that picture. The window also doesn't look horrible. It's not broken. It's got a blind in there. Remember the horror house back there in Cedar Hill? I think that was episode 23. You could see just from the outside the blinds were so messed up. You knew you were in for a treat when you walked into that place. All right, coming into the house, and we've got this crown molding that doesn't really mold too well up there. Looks like it's kind of tacked up there. Get the popcorn ceiling. Get the movie ready. We got the popcorn guys up there in the ceiling. Yeah. I think the trim is missing around that doorway. Reminds you of what we saw in the last episode. Lots of doors with no trim. Oh, the popcorn. You know how I feel about popcorn. Now, if you've been watching these episodes, you know I'm not a fan of the popcorn ceiling. It is not a selling point. It may have been 20 years. Oh my gosh. There's an arm there. Do y'all see that? They're taking. Excuse me, ma'am. Just need to take, or sir, whatever. Just need to take some pictures of this room. And that person said, "Go ahead." I am not getting up. That's a first. We got to episode 25 before we found somebody like either asleep or dead in the bed of the room we're looking at. Hopefully just asleep. Yeah, they were working late last night on the laptop and just crashed. That is crazy. Okay, all right, continuing on through. Yeah, this is just kind of old stuff. We see this a lot, this kind of level of cosmetic repair. These doors are never on the hinges. They're always sitting off to the side, or it's just crazy. They kind of ran along through this track right here, and they would pull out, and then they'd fall out, and people just prop them up. That'd be kind of what you get. All right. It's pink in there. Maybe if you go with pink, you don't have to paint the inside of the closet. Well, here, just, you're just seeing cosmetic messiness, just messiness. See around the door trim, and then the walls look kind of dirty and such. Yep. Pretty typical cosmetic stuff. Yeah. So, kind of a rough texture I see on that wall. And yeah, very rough and dirty. This house needs to be clean. That might have not been painted since 1958. I don't know. Maybe not. Well, something was done in here, I think, since 1958. One thing that was done is the person that did this work didn't know how to deal with the with an outlet or light switch. They just we'll just like surround little pieces around it till we get it to work. So you can see they did it there and they did it there. It's pretty funny. Probably more of a homemade job than a professional job, I'm guessing. But the toothbrush sticking out of the single-sided towel rack holder, that is classy. That is very classy. I think that is the way it keeps your toothbrush off the countertop, away from the shout and all the other stuff that's down there. Yeah, look, this looks like somebody did some work here at one point. It doesn't look extremely high quality based upon the grout work and, just grout kind of inconsistencies back there and in the way that they handled the outlets and such. But I don't know. Again, we've talked about this before. If you're going to rent the house, maybe not that big of a deal. If you're going to sell the house, you may want to redo all this. The vanity doesn't look horrible. The faucet doesn't look horrible. All right. Floor does look pretty gross, like, old, needs to be replaced. Again, in a rental, maybe not a horrible situation, but in a flip, we definitely want to fix that. Definitely, I would swap out that toilet. If I felt that was going to be an issue as far as fitment, I'd at least swap out the seat and make it look as new as possible. New toilets are not very expensive and not very hard to replace, so I tend to swap them out quickly and for very little reason other than the fact that I think it looks nice to have a new one. I think we're in the laundry room or closet or something. I think it's a laundry room. Very unfinished, very much needing of cosmetics. So this house is full cosmetic. We were in here earlier, and that is like an external pantry, I think, cabinet thing there. And as we saw, there was a defect in the wall back behind that. Let's see if we can see a little bit more of this kitchen. Yes, we can. Honestly, don't hate the cabinets. In fact, I could, like in gray, these things could look fine. I don't hate them. I do wonder about conflict down here between the doors and the drawers, but yeah. And there might be a missing drawer there. So I don't know, might be a little bit of work needs to be done there. Obviously need a backsplash put in, and countertop looks like they put a very inexpensive thin kind of, I don't know what that is, granite or something, marble or something on there. And looking around at the refrigerator, somebody beat the heck out of that refrigerator. It's got dents all over it. I don't care. I'm not buying the refrigerator. I am buying the house. And look over here. It needs work along the edges. This is all a continuation of the cosmetic stuff that we've talked about. Interesting floor idea down there. Again, sometimes I see things like this and I think, oh, did it yourself, huh? I don't know. Maybe they thought it'd be cool for the animals to have their own little patio to eat and drink off of. I don't know. In here, boy, you see this a lot in the really older homes. This either it had a rough texture always, or it's been textured over a bunch of times since 1958, or somebody came in and they didn't really know how to texture and they did it. But, between the popcorn ceiling, the very rough texture, the many, many coats of paint, the old molding or trim work, this, it's just, again, full cosmetic. And we see the big tile, kind of kitchen tiles in the main living area. You do see this in some houses where they've just tiled the whole house, but generally people don't want tile in their main living areas. And I think this is classic. What was there? Obviously a television, and they painted the wall without removing the television or even tilting it out. I guess maybe a little bit. And then, we find out when they moved and took the TV that it's been several paint jobs, I think, since the TV was removed. All right. continuing to look around. Yeah, look at that. You can really see that rough texture, and then areas where it's been repaired. We just need a lot of good texture work done to this place. And of course, the popcorn. The buttery, delicious popcorn. And yeah, it's a dirty house. It hasn't been painted in a while in most of these areas, and it shows it. And it shows very old tile throughout. If this was a flip, full cosmetic, walls, ceiling, and floors, and some missing trim, some areas I think there where somebody maybe worked on it, replaced it. But yeah, pretty much every surface that we're looking at is, dirty, needs paint. I think that's it. Let's jump over to the model. This thing needs full cosmetic. And you guys know when I see an old house like this, I'm going to throw in full repairs as well. It's the combination of the cosmetic, the appearance stuff, and then as we are doing the appearance stuff, we find all kinds of little things that need to be fixed, and that all falls in general repairs. The big jobs fall into the big 5 categories: electrical, plumbing, HVAC, foundation, and roof. And what we're going to do on this one is we're just going to trust what they're telling us. Now, if I was going to look at purchasing this property, number one, I would call Jade Vaughn like ASAP and say, hey, I'm interested. I want to see the property, ask any questions, probe deeper, make sure there really are no issues with the big 5. And then, we're kind of looking at a typical cosmetic, general repair type of job on this house. It's a little house. It's only 1,000 square feet. So we're throwing $16,000 to go in there and redo the paint and the floors. That might be a little light because, man, just getting the popcorn out, that job takes some labor and then some effort to resurface it after you've removed it. So it's a lot bigger job than just going in and putting texture on sheetrock, when you have to go in and take out all that popcorn and then go back in and retexture the sheetrock after you've done it. So I am a little concerned that our cosmetic is a little light here. For now, I'm not gonna debate with myself about this. I'm just going to go with what the numbers are telling me, what the model's telling me. 100% cosmetic, 100% general repairs gives us a budget of $16,288. Now look at what we have discovered here, my friends. Let's look at the cash offer formula. ARV 22906 times 70% gives us 154,634 minus our repairs 16,288. Look at these numbers. 138,346 is our cash offer. Let's compare it back to the email. They're at 135,500. So you can see how important that reduction was, where they took this property from 155,500 and reduced it down to 135,500. And we look over here at our model, and what just happened, they just got that house into a range where it makes sense on a cash offer. And so, I'm not going to beat this one up anymore. I think this looks like a deal. Mesquite is a fine community here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. It's a good rental community. It's close to the city. So it's a decent one to consider, especially if you're looking for rentals in the DFW area. I would like this one. I wonder if Zillow had a rent. They had a rent estimate of $1,704. I could believe that. $1,704. And we're getting in there for $138. We're going to spend $16. Guys, that looks like a pretty good rental. And even as a flip at the $135, now $155, you can see it was a non-starter, but at $135,500, it is a starter. We put the key in this thing, we turned it, and the motor fired up. And so I'm going to call this a good deal. Hey, thanks, Fazio. Just, You guys are always sending me these awesome emails with excellent photos, and we love to look at your deals. And I think this is a good deal after the price reduction. So like I said, reach out to Jade if you have any questions about the property. And I'd also encourage you guys, particularly if you're new to the channel, go to cashoffermasterclass.com, fill out that form, get the calculator. It's just my contact form, and I will send you the calculator, and I will keep you on my list of kind of my cash offer community folks that, you know, we have a special event or something coming up, I'll be able to reach out to you and let you know about it. So, and also YouTube channel, you can just search for Cash Offer Masterclass in YouTube and you will find my channel, which is WBH Deb. Subscribe to the channel. And if you don't mind, since you spent this time with me and we got all the way to the end, would you go ahead and like and subscribe? It's really helping me to build this new channel. And, you know, I've picked up like a couple hundred subscribers here in the first month or so. I'm very excited about the fact that we're off to a good start, but it's still a very small community. We're still growing. Nobody knows about us yet. So if you could do me that great favor to like and subscribe in the video, it would be a great way that you could help me build this community that could be a great asset for both me and for you. So awesome to spend some time with you today. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I look forward to the next one. I've got a special house coming up.